Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight.
Nurses march to the Ministry of Health in protest of that new shift system.
Ochre Hill residents are calling for an abandoned hotel that was the scene of a recent homicide to be torn down.
An accountant speaks out on that proposed NHI tax.
Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Welcome to Our News and thanks for joining us. I'm Kyle Joaquin. Tensions between the Bahamas Nurses Union and Public Hospitals Authority escalated this morning after dozens of nurses from Princess Margaret Hospital and public clinics marched to the Ministry of Health to voice their outrage over a new shift system. As the PHA holds firm on the new system, which takes effect in December, nurses marched around the building, waving placards and singing hymns. Jasmine Brown reports.
Nurses showing their force this morning as dozens of them marched to the Ministry of Health, insisting they will not work that new shift.
This morning, nurses stand together. Yes! Department of Public Health, are you here? Yes! Princess Margaret Hospital, are you here? Yes! Ambulance Rehabilitation, are you here? Yes!
Carrying placards that read "Hell no to the slavery shift" and $1.75 can't even buy a drink, nurses prayed, sang, and chanted along the way. Williams led the group from the General Post Office on East Hill Street to the parking lot at the Ministry of Health on Meeting Street.
We ain't falling. No. Are we falling? No. Are we falling? No. Who's the victory for? Nurses. Who's the victory for? Nurses. I can't hear you, nurses. Nurses. I can't hear you, nurses. Nurses. That's where the power lies that God gives us. And it is the people's time.
This morning's march comes just 2 days after nurses from the Princess Margaret Hospital, the Rand Memorial Hospital, and the public clinics across the country walked off the job insisting they would not work the new system. The system would establish a 40-hour work week and an 8-hour daily shift, as opposed to the current 10-hour shift for night duty nurses.
We deserve the best. Yes! Don't give us no shift that come from the backyard. That's it. Give us a shift that comes from professional nurses. Yes! 175 cannot do. No! I got a drink with leaving my child in the schoolyard at 6 o'clock in the morning cannot do. No! Overwork, underpaid. Yes. It ain't about the money. It's about the care of the patient.
The Nurses Union also met with PHA officials on Tuesday. However, the BNU president said an agreement could not be reached. Williams said Wednesday morning's actions were a show of force for the powers that be, as she insisted their actions will only escalate if the Public Hospitals Authority implements the new shift system in December.
We wanted to be clear that we're taking, like they say, no prisoners. We are serious about what we're doing.
Now, the nurses had hoped to get the attention of Health Minister Dr. Dwayne Sands. However, Dr. Sands was not in office at the time of the protest, as he was speaking at the opening ceremony of a gambling addiction workshop at the Church of God Auditorium on Joe Farrington Road. He arrived minutes after nurses left to head back to work. Sands says he spoke briefly with them as they were marching back to the hospital.
I have no beef with the nurses, none whatsoever. And I am happy to hear that there was a sit-down discussion between the PHA and the Bahamas Nursing Union. And from the Office of the Minister, from the Ministry, and from the Cabinet of the Bahamas, we're going to continue to encourage that dialogue.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Well, Health Minister Dr. Dwayne Sands has accused Progressive Liberal Party leader Philip Davis of waffling in his response to a proposed national health insurance tax. When asked whether he would repeal the tax if elected to govern the country, Davis says his response is yes. However, he said a Davis administration would have to see the extent and expansiveness of the program and determine whether it could exist without that tax. Well, Dr. Sands says that's waffling.
To listen to the leader of the opposition waffle in his inimitable way in his characteristic way to say something but say nothing at the same time. And so anybody listening to that interview or reading the substance would say, what did he just say?
The National Health Insurance Authority proposed a 2% payroll tax to fund the universal health care scheme in the Bahamas, according to a policy paper released earlier this month. Sands has said it is expected to cost $100 million per year.
I find it interesting and somewhat disingenuous that the Progressive Liberal Party, which would have promulgated an NHI plan, and then interestingly refused to say how you could pay for it, except to say, well, we may have to do this, we may have to do that, we may have to do the next thing. The Minister of Health, my predecessor, who sat in that same office, said how NHI was going to be funded.
Well, a 35-year-old French national pleaded guilty to possessing 3 fake driver's licenses during his arraignment in the magistrate's court today. Milan Dumba, seen here in the black hoodie, was charged with 3 counts of possession of forged documents. According to prosecutor Clifford Daxon, United States Customs and Border Control agents became suspicious of Dumba and handed him over to police officers stationed at Lynden Pindling International Airport. The U.S. green card holder, who says he resides in Philadelphia, apologized to the court for wasting its time and insisted that he never used or intended to use the fake driver's licenses. He was fined $1,000 on each of the 3 counts, and his deportation was recommended. If he fails to pay the fine, he faces 9 months in prison. The Parisian says he was visiting the Bahamas for a vacation to meet a friend who never showed up. Well, PLP Deputy Leader Chester Cooper has dismissed government's quarterly fiscal snapshot as nothing more than a sad attempt at an election promise wrapped up in a brochure with nice colors and graphic design.
Serious numbers are presented in Parliament, not in some colorful brochure released to the press.
In its recent fiscal snapshot, government announced a 52% reduction in the fiscal deficit, something the finance minister called proof government's fiscal plan is working. However, the PLP deputy leader, who was also the party's shadow minister for finance, said what we see now is government's half-baked attempt at fulfilling election promises, like the removal of VAT on breadbasket items, which came as VAT went up on everything else.
Quite frankly, we saw it as a public relations exercise where the government sought to pat themselves on the back for something they seem to be bragging about. But the Bahamian people see more taxes on their backs. They see more firings. They see a crumbling infrastructure, and they see the government bragging about it.
As for the DPM's disappointment that government was unable to collect millions in taxes from gaming house operators, Cooper questioned what else did Turnquest expect to happen.
What has happened is, in implementing some of these things, they haven't been well thought out. There was not enough consultation, and therefore the implementation in many respects was botched. Same can be said about the gaming tax. The government was all gung-ho about the gaming tax. They didn't consult with the industry. They thought they didn't have to. And now they're bogged into a legal fight.
The reports show that government collected $199.4 million in VAT this quarter, compared to $167 million in the same period last year. But Cooper insists the relief the finance minister speaks of means nothing to the average Bahamian, at least not until they can feel it, like when it comes to the high electricity bills.
Up to 40% increase month over month, and it hasn't stopped increasing based on reports that I am receiving. There's still too many Bahamians below the poverty line. The surveys still reflect that up to 50% of Bahamians can't make ends meet.
On the heels of a homicide inside the abandoned city lodge on Okra Hill in the middle of the night, area residents say they are sick and tired of crime, which they say is brought on by the dilapidated structure. They spoke with Jared Higgs.
Now, as you can see, the garbage is absolutely piled up inside of this abandoned building. Area residents say it's no place for people to be in and it needs to be demolished. One of those area residents is 64-year-old Tony Miller. He says violent crime has become the norm due to the protection provided by the vast yet degraded structure.
Everything goes on in here. Drugs, whorehouse, homeless people, all walks of life lives in this hotel. Name it. That's why the lady was naked yesterday, because that's how they live. It's a mess. When the police officers walk in there, they walk in mess. That's why they don't go in the back there. Something needs to be done with this hotel. If not, it's going to be more murder.
Nearby residents tell our news that as recently as a decade ago, the building had tenants. 48-year-old Patrick Major is one of those people who frequent the building, using it for shelter at night. He says he worked for the hotel as a teenager, doing laundry, and insists that he's the only person who sleeps in the building. According to Major, the other people who come and go are drug users and don't live in the area. This is where you sleep, you say? show me?
Bathe,
You lay right there?
Yes, I bathe and shower right here.
Bathe?
Bathe.
What you bathe with?
Well, I use a jug and bathe off.
Use of water? Clean water from where?
The pump. Everyone ain't that fortunate, okay? But you could hang on in there the life God you.
While neighbors appear to be tolerant of Major's quiet presence, several residents we spoke with were still adamant that the building needs to be destroyed.
All I can say is they just need to do a comb through before they break it down. Plenty things hidden inside there.
But you think it need to be demolished?
Yeah, it need to.
How come?
Because it's a hard look for everything. I just tell you that just now. And yeah, you steal something, you could hide it right in there.
And you think that attract people from other areas to this area?
Yeah. You got some place to start, you got some place to sleep if you're running. If you're running from the police, you got some place to sleep.
Like we already experienced robberies, now homicides, a homicide, rape, drugs. You have vagrants from off the streets who live in there. For the 10th time I'm saying this because nobody is coming. Nobody is feeling what we feel who have to live next to it. We already had 3 fires.
This is a free hotel. This is a free hotel. And these people are not Oakville people. I'm letting the Bahamian people know the incident happened yesterday. Not a one of them ever live in Oakville. I've been around here 64 years. Not a one of them live in Oakville, so something needs to be done.
The building's owner died 9 years ago, and since then, residents say their area is more like Okra, downhill. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jared Higgs.
All right, thanks, Jared. Still to come, Bica's president says an NHI tax could drive businesses to make cuts. Plus, a tech company gives 200 students the gift of extra classes. Stay tuned.